This is The Tea Project with your host, Gadiel and Michelle, a husband and wife duo where they will be discussing personal finance, managing a household, and so much more. Gadiel is a father, husband, a military veteran, and a lawyer. Michelle is a mother, wife, boss. Each week, they will be providing you with fresh and valuable content, so stay tuned. And now, welcome to The Tea Project.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tea Project Money Talks. I'm here with Gadiel, and we're going to talk a little bit about working remotely and what it's like to work remotely with children, especially if they're being homeschooled, and with no children, even just having that out of the picture, but what it would entail to have a productive and successful remote working experience.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Hey, folks, hope you guys are doing good or doing well, however you say it, good, well. So we have some tips here, and we're going to incorporate those tips with our current setup, So Michelle, just so you have context, Michelle's still working for her company, big employer. It's a big company in the healthcare industry, right? And I'm working on the law business. So we have the homeschooling, right? Because our two kids, 7 and 6, they're homeschooled. So how do we incorporate homeschool, 2 kids, and 2 working parents, right? Listen, folks, it's not easy, but this is what we do. You want to start it off here? So
just to give you a brief description of what our day is like, there's I'm a director of finance for the company. And so I'm in tons and tons of meetings. Before, I worked as the financial analyst before I got promoted to director. So I was a busy bee then, which means that if I would have been in that stage working remotely, then I probably would have had some wiggle room as to getting some of my work done in my own set of time. Right. However, that's not the case now because my time is tied to meetings. Right. So if there's meetings going on, they're usually going to be between 9 to 5. So what happens then? Kids are in school between 9 to 4. So try juggling. Luckily what we've done is I've attached myself with the youngest one, and Gadiel's attached himself with the oldest. So there's some cases where we've said like, oh, okay, these guys can handle it. And then we walk away and 2 seconds later, they're like playing around under the desk or something like that. Yeah. And we're like, oh, hello. You're supposed to be in front of the camera, in front of your class engaging. Mm-hmm. So we've still been going back and forth trying to figure out which is the best way to manage it. But for the most part, I think we kind of have it somewhat impact. So the way we have it now, so the Michelle's work day, like the 9 to 5 kind of work time frame, coincides with our kids' school. So our office at home, which was Michelle and my office, now it's Michelle and the little one's office. She has direct supervision of the little one, right, of Lucas. So their desks are in the same room. She has her workspace. He has his workspace. So I think it's important to say that each person, each student, right, each child must have like a designated area where they feel comfortable saying, this is my workspace, this is my school space. So I would recommend tip number 1 is each child and parent have a designated workspace where they feel some ownership. This is mine. This is my workspace, my school space. I can lay all my documents, my papers, my crayons, my pencils, whatever it is, on my table, and no one's going to come here and say, oh, don't do this or don't do that. It's my table. It's their designated table. So that's that part. Okay. And then the big one, right, Liam, he's a little older, right? He's 18 months older, 18 months? 20 months older. So he is at a point, and he's about to turn 8 next month. He's at a point where he doesn't need the direct eye supervision. However, he does need the constant checkup.
So he's occupying with a room that was made for Lucas and Liam's office. Now it's just being used by Liam. So he's by himself. He doesn't have direct supervision, just constant checkup. I'm sort of like the stepchild here, right? I'm using there's a little kitchen.
Like a nook area.
Like a nook area.
Desk, kitchen desk.
Kitchens, some kitchens have a little space, it's sort of make up on the countertop. It's sort of made as a desk, has a drawer. This is some kitchens are modeled to have a little desk area, right? So that's mine. I'm in the kitchen, using this desk area, and it's good because I'm by myself, and then really I just need to work on the business as an entrepreneur, right? That's how I'm running the law business as an entrepreneur. So I got my own space. Everyone has their own space. You want to add something to that?
So I think another tip to add to that is we should and for the most part we do plan together. I try to plan individually. You try to plan individually, but then planning together so that in case, hey, listen, I have a big meeting, or hey, I have a Zoom meeting, or I have to meet with a client, or I have to go to the post office or whatever, then we kind of coordinate, or you ask me, hey, print out your week's calendar so that he can go ahead and
look at which day is best for me to step out.
Right, because you have a little more flexibility than I do. But I think that's another thing that's important that needs to occur. So one other tip.
Wait, let me add that real quick. That's important that you point that out. So if you're a couple and you have one or two kids, and one partner's schedule is flexible, try to be. I'm not perfect, but I try to be accommodating to Michelle. Michelle's schedule is a little more
it's time
demanding.
too.
I want to say it's demanding because a lot of your time is stuck in these meetings, and you can't have the kids yelling or screaming. It looks unprofessional. We need to talk about that too. How do you perform as an employee while supervising a child while his schoolwork, and you're on a Zoom meeting with other managers, doctors? You still have to be professional and wear a parent hat at the same time / teacher hat, because you're still looking at his work and things like that. So where I'm going with this, I'm the flexible one, and my schedule is flexible. So I have to be accommodating to Michelle, knowing that hers is less flexible. So if you're one of the partners in the marriage or relationship and your schedule is flexible, try to be accommodating. Know that this is temporary, right? This is temporary. I don't see us homeschooling for next 3, 4, 5 years. Although it could go that route, but I think at some point our schedules are going to change.
Yeah.
And so we're planning on some things, but for now, I don't see it as being permanent, the schedule. So I'm going to be flexible to you and your needs.
Right. So that flexibility, the tip you're saying there is important. Also, to add to that piece is, like you said, it's gonna change. It's gonna evolve over time. So you have to evolve with it. You're not gonna have the same plan that you have now.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be the same plan you have next week. Might not be the same plan that you have next month. Because I think what is important is you have to tweak it as you go.
You tweak it. Be comfortable tweaking.
Yeah.
I know we like to be comfortable, no changes, no adjustments, because we like to be our comfort.
Once it works, it's comfortable. But while it doesn't, it's uncomfortable, and you have to continue tweaking it.
Be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to sum it up.
Right. One other thing would be that
let's talk about expectation.
Okay.
What is expected as you? Between us, what's expected of you still working and watching Lucas as a parent / teacher? What's expected? What does the family expect of you?
No, I think as long as it's apparent and understood that everybody is contributing, even the kids are contributing in some shape or form, then that kind of gives some harmony in the family structure, because it's not just you and I who have to contribute. So it's also the kids as well. They're well into an age where they can contribute in terms of hey, let's do laundry, fold your clothes, put your clothes away, gather all the garbage, put it all in one place. So they all have their own chores. They all know they have their responsibilities. Now, do they do them all the time? No. Do you have to ask them 20 times? Yes. So, but I think in drilling into them how important it is for all of us to work as a family, to help each other out and work as a team, that is a consistent, repetitive. You constantly have to be telling them, you constantly have to be drilling it into their minds until they get to that point. Probably, when they're 10, 11, 15 years old, they hopefully then come to understand this is what is expected of me.
Right. We all have expectations of each other. And this is discussed openly. I expect Michelle to be supervised, she's going to maintain her work, but supervise Lucas in his studies at the same time. I expect that. I don't expect her to do that to Liam, right? Because she expects that of me.
But we had that communication.
Yeah, we talk about
before
that.
They even started school. You're responsible for Liam. Granted, sometimes I'll come and ask you how's he doing because I'm also his parent and I also want to know how he's doing. I'll communicate to you how Lucas is doing, if he's not doing good or he's not doing well, as a form of, obviously you're his dad.
Right.
But ultimately, I'm taking responsibility for his academic responsibilities or whatever you want to call it. In addition to that, making sure that he's doing what he's doing, whether it be school related or not.
Right. And the same here. And Michelle, and this is discussed openly. You got to be okay with taking on those responsibilities because you're working for a common goal here. She expects me to be the one communicating with the teacher, although she does too, but to...
Well, I won't get involved with his teacher. I kind of let you take that one.
And that's what I'm saying.
I get involved with Lucas's teacher.
And I don't even get involved in that either because... What if one parent is doing all the work? Dude, they're going to be overworked and they're going to say, this is not fair. What about 50-50? What about this? So we discussed, let's do this. I will take responsibility on communicating with Liam's teacher. Any behavior issues, she's already called them out a few times, and many other students because we're getting adapted to this online schooling. So I'm responsible for his school. That comes with any conversations with any teachers, his homeroom teacher, PE, and assignments that need to be turned in. They have to be uploaded onto their platform, the school platform they use. They don't know how to really do that yet because you got to take a picture, you use your phone, you take a picture, you upload it, and you send it to the teacher to be graded. So that's my responsibility. And so we have expectations and responsibilities between us as parents and as contributing to the family, which also includes not just supervising the kids while they're at school, but also producing. She's working. I'm running the law business, so there's expectations and responsibilities that we each need to contribute either to the family finances or even chores for the kids at work. There's expectations. You need to do laundry. You need to do this. You need to do that. So it's very important that we always keep this in mind.
All right. So to move on to the next tip, it would be that. So for those of you who are dealing with working remotely and you find yourselves sort of lost, where do I start because this is getting overwhelming. I have my kids screaming, probably off the walls, or I have meetings and they're popping up in my meetings and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Few things to keep in mind is you're not driving to work, so you've got possibly anywhere between, if you're lucky, 15 minutes to an hour and a half of time back in your times two, because it's going and back. Mm-hmm. You have that now in your time. You're in control of that. So, whether it's waking up early to go exercise, work on some personal things. If you look at your schedule and kind of look to see, okay, where is it that I'm the most busiest when I'm at work? Pick out those blocks. And now you know that block is specific to work. if you're salaried, you're on the clock the whole time. But it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
You know, if you're hourly, yes, you're on the clock, but there is some flexibility. Where is it that you need to put most of your time in? Is it early in the morning? Is it during the lunchtime side, or is it in the evening? Talk to your employer, see if you can coordinate that time,
Right.
so that way you can sort of manage your kids' school. Mm-hmm. So like we have some employees that don't work during the same times that we do. And these are hourly employees. Mm-hmm. So they'll wake up super early and send out all their work that they need to send out for that day. Right. And then they'll take off, they'll clock out, and then they'll be back on in the evening when the kids are going to sleep.
And let me ask you, now they do that because it's convenient for them?
Yes, because we're trying to accommodate our staff. So
let me ask you this though, as a manager, have you seen a lack of production? Because I know some
increase.
Employers are like, no, I don't want to do
on the contrary,
work remote because they're not as productive, the people.
And
what have you seen?
And that's interesting because that's exactly what our above us, our upper management has said. That's been their fear. What if the staff members aren't up to par with their work?
Right.
They're producing.
So you've seen what? Have they produced more, the same, or less than working in the office?
Because think about it. How many people, if you ask them, hey, if you had the option to work from home, would you say yes or no? They back in 2019 and prior, they would have jumped on it immediately. Right. And I don't even think that's not the case this time. I think that still continues to be the same. Right. Granted, for the parents who were probably complaining about, hey, I'm working from home and my kids are at home because schools are closed.
Okay, so you're telling me that folks, if you would have asked them last year when working remote was not even on their radar at all, like they weren't even thinking, they were comfortable as can be going to work, driving an hour like us. We drove an hour to work, even though we lived like 2 miles from work, right? So you're saying even though it wasn't on their radar, if you would have asked them, they would have said yes?
I think it was on their radar. In fact, I know some of our employees that so I have a few direct that directly report to me. Mm-hmm. And the others do report to me, but they also report to 2 other managers, as weird as it sounds, 2 other directors. And it's all because it's just all the entire finance department. But I have some employees in that vicinity that have actually expressed, without knowing that COVID was happening, like without knowing that COVID was gonna occur. Right. And they're like, man, it'd be great if I worked from home. But here's the thing. Everybody's like, hey, I wish I could work from home. But nobody's thinking that work from home in this case, would entail your kid being at home.
Right. Oh, yeah. Right.
You're thinking working from home, my kid continues to go to school, and I just work out at home from my jammies.
But yeah, right. But look, there's an old thought process because we have it, society, we are socially accepted that we must go to a brick and mortar, a building, that the moment you walk in, your mind frame has changed into employee, right? Mm-hmm. And now you're going to produce, as opposed to instead of being at home, working from home, and still change your hat and say, okay, I'm going to work now, and still produce. Like there's an old philosophy saying, no, there's no way. They're going to be lazy at home.
Because there's no supervision.
No supervision.
And absolutely, I completely disagree with that.
Have you been more productive? I want to say,
absolutely.
You work more now than before. Now, I didn't see you at work, but dude, you're like glued to your desk.
However,
all day, all
I have
night.
to say, though, that with my team, I was just thinking about this earlier this morning. The truth is that if you have a good team, okay, and you develop them well, it's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a lot of work because it's almost like raising children. Okay. Expectations. Your expectations are high at the beginning, and then they sometimes disappoint you a little bit. But it's because you have to look at yourself and say, what am I doing wrong, so that I can improve on their performance.
You're saying there's a learning curve then?
Right, but it's more importantly you have to do a self-analysis.
Okay.
Like because whatever you may find that may not be working in your team, you can't just automatically say, hey, it's because so-and-so isn't doing this.
Let me ask you, are you saying that they're looking at you saying, you set the example?
Yes. Well, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you can get your team to work efficiently, and for that to happen, you have to mold them. And that takes work.
Gotcha.
A lot of time and a lot of work. And when I mean a lot of time, it could be years. And now is where I've gotten to a place where I'm like, man, I delegate all 99% of the work to my team. And I only stay with like 1%.
Let me ask you now, is that because of you're working from home, or is it something else? I
think it's because I feel like I am more in control of my department now because of the technology that's out there. So, for instance, we use Zoom, we use GoToMeeting, we use most 90% of the time we use Microsoft Teams.
Okay.
And we have our morning calls with the entire finance department early in the morning. And then I have another morning call with just the financial reporting team. And everybody knows what they have to do. They're up 7 o'clock in the morning and they're producing reports, giving out information. That's already well oiled. So right. I'm just supervising at this point. I'm looking at it from a very aerial view. Right. I'm looking at it like, okay, is this, or do we have the staff today in place in case there's a request or something, because our team is data analytics, besides it being financial reporting. So for us, it's about making sure that we're using our time efficiently. And then that way, every single team member doesn't feel overwhelmed, still feel satisfied with working from home, and really look at it like almost like a fringe benefit.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Now you mentioned this. Now let me ask you this: if you had the option to go back to the brick and mortar method, which would you prefer?
Oh, I wouldn't go back if I didn't have to.
Now there's a lot of articles now talking about that's changed. The way we view work is completely changed because of what's going on with the pandemic. That commercial real estate is going to take a major hit. Yeah. And obviously it's going to save a lot of overhead for companies. But
let me say, though, that with the commercial buildings, I think it's just going to be a matter of them evolving. How to figure it out. And I'm sure Amazon is going to take over a lot of those they need properties,
locations for
their warehousing, housing.
And other companies as well, not just Amazon. Other companies that see opportunity. Because that real estate's going to be cheap now. It's not going to be, like New York. We've been looking at a lot about New York. A lot of people are leaving. A lot of businesses are leaving. So does that mean the commercial real estate, the price per square foot to some of these spaces, is it going to be cheaper?
Oh, that I'm not sure.
I imagine it can't be the same. It can't be.
Right, but think about it like this. If you had commercial buildings and you were renting them out, and say they were restaurants, you have them coming and going left and right. Okay. It's not a consistent cash flow.
Yes, that's true.
But if you have Amazon coming in, you're pretty much secured for a while.
But does Amazon have leverage now?
Yes, they do.
You have an empty building. I will lock this place up for 10 years.
But it's cash flow.
But I want it cheap.
It's cash flow.
It is cash flow. It is cash flow.
So at the end of the day, they have their unit rented. Yeah. They got to figure out where to cut costs, but their rent is keeping up. So
let me ask you this now: working from home, is it less stressful than working?
It is a little bit. It is a little bit. So I think that's all on you, though.
Because I see you stressed a little bit.
I am.
How are you less stressed working from home?
What do you have to do to get less stressed?
No. Tell me. You've been working from home for a little while now. If you look back and reflect, you know what? I used to be super stressed when I was in the office because of this, and this.
How am I less stressed now?
Are you less stressed now working from home? Why? Because are you more comfortable?
I'm more comfortable. It's almost like I'm working on my own schedule in a way. I don't know. Not even that. I think it's just more. You're not dealing with.
Or do you have to be someone else when you go to the office? Do you feel like you
Well,
are?
For one, I have to like. I mean, I know some people like to like get dressed up and look nice and everything, and
now you don't have to even think about that.
I don't want to come off as being like I'm a slob kebab because I'm not, but
the expectation is less now, right?
The expectation is
which
less.
means the
so
mental.
I only really get dressed for whenever there's going to be a meeting, which maybe 50% of them is where I have the video on. Otherwise, like let's say the conversations or the meetings that I have in the morning are one over the phone. You don't have to get dressed up for the phone.
Right.
And then the other one is through Microsoft Teams, and you have the option to not have the camera on. So in a way, I've already set precedents with my team that they don't need to put the camera on. I'm not going to force them to get dressed up like, professionally. I mean, if I ever spring up on them and put the camera on, they're gonna feel like, oh man, I gotta put my camera on.
What's going on here? Give me 2 minutes. I gotta put a jacket or something.
Right,
on.
But I'm not gonna do that. I mean,
as long as everyone's working at a high level.
Now my boss does that.
Okay.
The good thing though is that I at least have a shirt that is that is
It's the top part is professional, the bottom is casual.
And if not, I always have a sweater that just like a not a cardigan, but just an office sweater that I just pull over, and that's it.
So mental health wise, folks are less stressful working from home as opposed to in the office.
I think so. I think
that's one of the benefits of working from home.
If they do have stress, it's just juggling between them and their kids.
A different type of stress now.
Right.
Okay,
but I think that those two together is where it becomes a little bit more complicated, and you have to figure out ways around it.
Right.
Like what works. But for sure, like one of the things I would say that need to happen for it to be successful is wake up early in the morning.
Right.
Look through your to-do list before your child gets on to Zoom or whatever.
Okay, real quick, you mentioned a to-do list, right? Mm-hmm. What about the folks who really don't do to-do lists? They just wake up and they just do what they've been doing for a long time. How much more productive and mental
I think it's
health
whatever
wise,
you're comfortable with.
No, but you used to do a to-do list, right? Imagine you didn't do it. How much more stressful would your day be if you didn't do it?
Because you don't even know where you're standing on.
That's what I'm saying. I know people who don't do that. Yeah. You imagine how less stressed they would be if they actually sat down the night before and kind of planned out their day. They know what to expect.
Right.
So you being the master to-do list, what do you suggest that folks do?
Well, I carry around. I'm a notebook lover. Like any kind of notebooks, I'll collect them. I find them at the store and I'll buy them, and I probably won't use them until like a year later. But it's because I'm still trying to go through the ones first in, first out type of thing.
You have some that you'd never used because you're still working on others. You're a collector.
Right.
I get it.
So, but what I just do is it's just like a journal, and then with little boxes, and I put them in there. Now what I've gotten into is I got 3 pencils or 3 color pens.
Okay.
One is for work, one is personal, and one is honey-do list.
And that's visual. You do it for visual purposes?
Tracking purposes.
Tracking?
And just yesterday I sat through my notebook, and I went through every sheet as far as back as August, and kind of gathered all the items that had been, kind of put away, like not attended to.
Yeah.
And I brought them all closer to where we are today. Mm-hmm. Or I scheduled them out in the future so that I don't have to consistently be like, okay, let's move it one more day. Let's move it one more day. Let's move it one more day. Let me just throw it over to the next week.
But for the people who don't do that, what advice would you give them on how to do a basic to-do list for your day, your week? Like, what would be the basic principles?
Well, without going to too much detail, because I think that's
you're at a high level. You're at a high level.
It's just have a notebook at your desk, and then just kind of go through your schedule or print out your Outlook calendar. Start with that.
Okay.
Outlook calendar. Look at any emails that you have, and then see which ones are pressing. There's the Eisenhower method, which is just a 4-box thing. What is important and urgent? What is important, not urgent? What isn't important, not urgent? And what isn't important, urgent? Not important, urgent.
I mean,
you know what I mean.
Honestly, that's still a little high level.
It is, but I think it's what I'm trying to get you to think of is it important and urgent? If it is, it should be on your to-do list. If it isn't, don't bother putting them in.
Okay. So when they put on their to-do list, should they put like time frames, due dates, things like that?
Doing time frames, yeah. So,
Okay.
but I think, like I said, if you wake up in the morning, or if you already have an idea of what your schedule looks like,
Yeah.
put them in blocks, in block times, and say, okay, I'm gonna wake up at 6 in the morning, and I'm gonna work till 9 o'clock. If
Yes.
you're an hourly person, talk to your boss and see what time slots work for you, and then that way they can count on, okay, I can count on so and so from 6 to 9 o'clock, and then from 12 to whatever time where you make up your 8 hours. If you're a salaried person, I don't even think you need to tell that to your boss. I
Right.
think that you just have to figure out, is my work getting done? Is my team working efficiently? Is my team happy?
Right.
Is there anything that I can do to improve our department, or the way that our department is
Functioning.
Then you can work all that into 4 hours. There's that book, the 4 hour work week, or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's what I was trying to get to earlier before, that it doesn't matter if you can, it doesn't matter how much time you put into work, but if you can get your team to work for you efficiently, where you're not overworking them,
Right.
and you're always looking for what ways to improve or to be more efficient, and not just you, but for your team, then you'll have a better work experience.
Gotcha.
So, all right. So what I wanted to kind of touch on is tips for technology. So one of the things that's important whenever, if you haven't already done Zoom meetings or team meetings or Microsoft team meetings, any of those kind of things, make sure that your camera, where it's facing, that your background is either you create a background and you save that background, or Zoom or Microsoft Teams usually have default ones.
Okay.
Or make sure that your background, your real background, is appealing, that it's not anything where like your bed frame.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And let me kind of paint the picture for the folks listening. Michelle's background, meaning what the Zoom camera looks at, obviously her when she's in front of the camera, but behind her is bookshelves, a nice candle, a nice coffee mug, some books, nice, these are entrepreneur books, some scripture, frames, nice frames. This one says Office, Mascara, Hustle. It's very aesthetically, it's pleasing on the eye. It's pleasing on the eye. What it's not looking as, it's not a picture that's not appropriate for work. It's not dysfunction where you see like a bathrobe. It's nothing where it's looking into your personal life. It still needs to be maintained somewhat a professional setting. So that's her background. What else?
Okay, so another thing is if you're not talking and you're only listening, just put the mute button. Just put the mute button.
Huge.
If you are talking, sometimes I may be talking and then Lucas may be here and he may be talking too, or something like that.
What do you do?
Depending on who my audience is, if it's my boss, she understands. I mean,
You already had that discussion.
No, she cracks jokes because I've been working with her since 2017. So 3 years already, and she knows that I have kids. She knows that it's on a completely different level, meaning it's understood. It was always understood. That's never been an issue.
But for somebody who's just now going remote work from home and has the kids, is it helpful to have that discussion immediately up front? Hey guys,
if you have no other choice but to have your child there around in the meeting, absolutely, you do have to have
why that. And I think, and let me answer it, I think why, if you have that discussion with your supervisor, your co-workers, whatever,
it's just bringing
it's
awareness.
less stressful on you. You don't have to act like you're the only one in the room and you don't have another life, a parent life that you're trying to work at the same time.
It's not taboo.
It's not taboo.
Right.
You speak about it. Hey guys, and then they can say, hey, I got my kids too. Do you hear them? So everybody's less stressed. They don't have to. There's no fake expectation when it is what it is.
And I think even like, let's say where initially when we first started working remotely, sometimes the kids because it was new, the kids will sometimes pop up behind the camera and say hi, and then you get flustered because you're like, oh my God. Yes.
How embarrassing is it?
Yes.
Now, is it still embarrassing? Not
anymore, because time has progressed, and we have been talking to the kids and saying, listen, when mom and dad are in a meeting, you can tell because you're like literally just facing the camera.
You're talking
and you're talking, or even if you're not talking.
Right.
They know already that past my desk, they're not allowed to be beyond that.
Because then they're in camera view.
Yeah.
But when there are instances where they do goofy like stuff. Like Liam, he's a little hard-headed, so he'll do it. But on you, do you feel less embarrassed because, hey, they know now that you have kids? Or do you feel like, oh my God?
But that's just me personally. If in the event that knowing that they are not allowed to come behind my desk, even if they did so, the way to come back from that is just kind of let him say hi and then move on and kind of like, hey, push them off. Or you have to put them, give me 1 second, mute the button, turn off the camera if you have to, and then get up and take care of it, take them out, come back in. Thank you very much for your patience. Right. That's it.
The reason why I ask is that I'm not completely there yet. So if I'm talking because I think the expectation in what I do, that when that client calls to speak to a lawyer,
for you it's different.
If they've never spoken to a lawyer, I imagine in their mind it's no laughing, it's straight up professional, you're being respectful, and you don't expect a dog barking. You don't expect kids trying to talk to you when you're having like a phone consultation or whatever. You're talking about a death in the family. So that one, I'm not there yet where I feel comfortable saying, hey, give me 1 second, man. My kids, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
Right, and I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think entrepreneurs, I can never say that word. I don't think that they can be there just like I am there as an employee.
I agree. I think I'm with you on that.
Because it's a different dynamic when you have the professional, not that I wouldn't be professional, but when you have the business owner speaking, and then you hear the dog barking or you hear the kids screaming, it's almost like you're working from home.
No. Not only that though. It's like this. It's like,
what kind of operations are you running?
So like, hold on,
daycare?
The thing is that the customer starts doubting the professionalism of the person they're speaking to. They start doubting the quality of the service.
Right.
They equate,
and they don't know you.
And they don't know you
personally.
This is the first time. No, this is the first time they're speaking to me.
Right. And here it's your coworkers. They know you. You know them. So having the dog coming around, or even our executive director, she'll have her dog coming and you hear him barking and she's like, give me a second, put mute, and that's it.
Right.
But it's because it's in confidence.
Yeah, everyone, you feel comfortable. Everyone's comfortable. There's still a level of professionalism. However, you don't have to be robotic. We understand there's things happening. And I think as an entrepreneur, there's a level of professionalism that you have to maintain, but at the same time, you got to find that somewhat happy medium if you're working from home in a time like this where you have the kids as well home as well. So that one right there. I think that one is like a podcast on its own, man.
Right.
All
right. Another tip is adding the video component. Sometimes a lot of these meetings that are outside of the company, meaning third-party meetings, they will most of the time just hide behind the camera. Okay. Or they'll close up their camera and you only hear them speak.
Right.
So that has already been established that you can do that.
It's okay to do.
It's okay to do.
You're not shamed upon or nothing like that.
Correct. Okay. But now it's, for the most part, the meetings that we've had with third parties, they're already established relationships.
Okay.
Right? But I think when it comes to those types of meetings where you're trying to build a relationship,
right?
If the goal is to build a relationship, one that wasn't already there before, then I think having the video component is the next best thing to having a face-to-face. And of course, with that being said, you have to look professional, your hair done. You can't look all crazy.
Right.
So you have to think about those things. What kind of meeting is it, and what are the expectations? So I think that's where you probably kind of draw the line. And then the expectation too of if your boss turns on their camera, you got to turn your camera on.
Right. They're setting the tempo, the mood, the tempo,
right.
the flow of the meeting. Yeah.
So like there's been instances where myself and my boss are kind of hosting a meeting with, say, the billing department.
Right.
I don't want to put them out there now.
No,
now
that's
that
fine.
I think about it. So if they're listening, they're gonna be like, "Are you serious?" But sometimes we'll say, "Hey, not me, but my boss will say, "Hey, I can't see you." Not to me, but to our staff.
Yep.
"Hey, I can't see you on the camera. You don't have the camera on." Okay, give me a second. Give me
30 seconds. I need to quickly fix this up.
Right, and then open.
So you got to kind of be prepared for that.
You have to be prepared.
Depending on the audience, you got to kind of expect it could happen.
But even in that case, this is not the first meeting that we've had with them. So if the first one was like that, chances is the ones thereafter will also be the same. Expectation is to have the video on.
Absolutely.
With the camera on.
So you kind of wait until they change the setting, the mood, the tempo.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned technology. Do you feel like you're more technological now, being forced to use all these apps?
Yes.
Than you were from when you worked at the brick and mortar?
Yes. But there's so much technology or resources out there that we're not using.
Okay.
But because of there's numerous reasons we're not using them all, and there's maybe through time we can start to look into seeing, hey, is it worth adding this app or adding this, like the like the project management. There's a bunch of apps or websites or whatever that will do project management.
Yes.
Because my department doesn't do a lot of that. The projects are the same projects every year.
Okay. Yeah, then it's not necessary.
But I'm pretty sure that there's stuff in those apps that would make it even better
easier.
for it. Yeah.
You mentioned Teams. Did you use Teams before working from home? Do you feel like you're a master of Teams now? Screen sharing. That screen sharing where you can see my screen, I can see your screen.
I can go onto somebody's screen and.
How helpful is that?
Oh, that's no different from you sitting in a conference table, and writing up or saying, here, you
looking
need to
at
change
a file
this.
or something,
or me going into their office, and them asking me a question, and we'll go here, do this, do that, do this, or whatever.
Now you can do it from here.
Now you can do it from there.
So it's almost like the pandemic has propelled us to the future.
Yep.
Where we're forced. Look, I took a Zoom meeting the other day, and I've never done a Zoom. To be honest, to be straightforward, I've never done a Zoom meeting, a Google Meet meeting, none of these meetings. But the client asked for it. The client wanted to see me in person. He wanted to introduce his wife to me, and I said absolutely. So what did I do? I've never done Zoom meeting. He wanted to do a Zoom meeting. So I quickly learned, before having the meeting, I set it up I downloaded the app. I did a couple try runs on my own so that when I did have the meeting, it looked like I was already familiar with Zoom. Mm-hmm. Not like you're looking all goofy trying to, hey, sir, how are you, ma'am? And you're trying to set it up. No, I did that. Give me 1 second. I really don't know how to work this. You're not expected to be a professional in applications, but it looks good when you look like you know.
Oh, but now if you aren't, that's gonna be.
Oh yeah, you're right.
It's gonna be like, how long have we been on Zoom for? A year, and you still haven't learned it. It's gonna get like that.
It's a check.
Little by little, it'll get to that.
You're saying it's a check. Like if you're having an interview,
it's an expectation at that point.
If you don't know it, you're like, oh man, you don't know it.
Think about it. Back in 2013, when I started working for my employer, we lived in Michigan.
Yes.
How did I get hired?
Was it Zoom? It wasn't Zoom.
Skype.
Oh, Skype. Yes, Skype. Yes.
Skype. That's how I did my interview.
You were hired through Skype.
I was hired through Skype.
So yeah, I remember that.
Or I was interviewed, and then they gave me the offer.
Right.
So that's how much we've evolved.
Yes. Yes.
So now here's another thing to consider. What do you do in the situation, in the current state that we're in now? what's missing? The physical, interpersonal relationships. So how do you compensate for that?
Does Zoom meetings compensate? Does seeing people's faces compensate?
I think you don't have another choice but to do that. Unless you know, in the social distancing piece of it, you still take those precautions, and then you start to kind of, you know, maybe your neighbor, if you feel comfortable with them and you think that they're taking the precautions on their end, you're taking the precautions on your end. And I guess I'm speaking for like the kids.
Okay.
For me, we have our family over, and that's enough social. What is the word I'm looking for? No, social
interaction.
Yeah, that I need.
We still need to talk to humans in person and
correct. That's as much as. But I know that they've been taking their precautions as far as social distancing, so I'm okay with them coming to the house or whatever.
So you're saying now the kids, since they used to being with 30 kids in one class, 12 hours a day.
Imagine if this is a 1 year, a 2 year, a 3 year thing.
What effect does that have on their mental state?
Right. What happens when they go back to being together with other kids, physically together?
Right.
They're going to kind of look at each other like, you're a person?
Right. They're going to kind of relearn how to interact with people in person. That's interesting that you missed that. Let me ask you, do you think there is a downfall, or not downfall, but like a negative effect on kids who don't have that 12-hour day laughing and giggling with kids in the same room? Now it's all through like not fake, but like imitation interaction, like where it's really you can't feel their laugh. I mean, you can see it, but
I don't know if this is how they do it with Liam, but with Lucas they put him out in break rooms.
Yeah, same. They put him in break rooms and I hear him laughing.
Yeah.
You know, but it's
not enough though.
It's not enough
because even if it's just hey, let's go to the park and have a play date with other kids.
Yeah.
I think that's still needed. I think that but like I said, it has to be on your own comfort level.
True. Right. You're not going to be around 100 people, 10, 20 people, maybe 2 or 3 people. And
you also don't want to psychologically mess them up.
That's the point.
By telling them you have to social distance and you have to keep 6 feet away and you have to put your mask on and you have to do this and you have to do that, because then by the time we're done with this, it's going to feel just as it felt weird now. Exactly. They're going to be conditioned.
Be distanced and to cover their mouth and to do this and do that when maybe it's not even necessary.
Right. Just like the other day, we went to, I think it was last Sunday that I walked into a Home Goods. And
oh yeah,
so many times not so many times, like a handful of times I've forgotten to take my mask with me. Luckily, I've had it in my purse on me. I just haven't put it on me.
Yeah.
And luckily, I notice that I'm missing it when I'm at the door leaving the car.
Okay.
So like the last time I left my mask in the car,
I
opened. No, I was right next to it. I opened the door again and I got it, and that was it. So I'm still not, because I don't go out that often, I'm not 100% used to putting on the mask. I hate putting the mask on, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I feel super claustrophobic.
I got you.
I'm constantly fidgeting with it because I can't breathe. Like it's a cloth one, so it's like I breathe in, I'm breathing in the cloth.
And you're breathing in hot air. I don't like breathing.
Yes.
I know some people sleep with the covers over.
No.
Dude, I need cold air. And it's uncomfortable. So what happened? You walk into Home Goods.
So we walk into Home Goods and Lucas is sitting in the shopping cart and we're kind of going down maybe the second aisle already. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Mom, I don't have my mask on. And at that point in time, I'm like, damn it, we're at the store. I want to go shopping.
It's Home Goods. You like it.
I haven't, and I know we're not gonna come back for a little bit.
Oh
and then I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Do I put the mask on him?
You had yours?
Yeah.
He just didn't have it. Okay.
Right. And I'm like, do I put my mask on him, or do I leave mine on? Because if I don't have mine on, for sure they'll kick us out.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Arrest you, maybe. You know, I've seen these things where they get it, if they don't got it on.
I don't think they'll arrest you.
No, they ask you to leave. And if you don't leave, then they'll arrest you. I get you.
Right, but I'm going to leave.
I got you. I know.
So I'm like, he's like, Mom, but what about a corona? and that right there, I'm like, don't worry. Right. You and I are equally, like, safely distanced from
everybody
people.
Else. Right.
And if there's anybody down the aisle, I'm not going to go by them.
But that says a lot about his mental state, though.
exactly my point. That's just the beginning. Talk
That is
about
the
6
beginning.
months from now. If we're still continuing doing that, we have to be very cognizant of how they are operating, how the kids are operating, and then just make sure that we bring them back to, this is not normal, guys. We're doing this only for a temporary,
For the time being.
right, until hopefully we figure something out.
So right now they're operating consciously. 6 months from now, it may be subconsciously.
They're too
doing
far
it,
away, too
Yes.
far out, that it's hard to bring them back.
And they're remember, like, they're operating subconsciously. Like, they're not even thinking about it. Like, okay, I can't get around this kid because 6 feet. They're doing it without even thinking.
Right.
And there's an effect there.
Right. So I think
This generation,
that experience, I think, was somewhat good because it
opened your eyes.
It opened my eyes.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I will not be so quick to, oh my God, you have to put your mask on. You're only doing it because it's being mandated. We're following the law, which that's a whole other thing. But
That's another podcast.
yeah, but I think that we have to be aware. But so we got off topic here. So
Real quick, just to wrap up that point, I think it's important to just say that however long this thing lasts, as far as the social distancing, the mask, these things like this, these measures, it could have an effect on this generation. A long-lasting one.
And if you're not having conversations with your kids about it, you're just kind of letting them,
You're letting the social society rule kind of manipulate their behavior.
You
as
have
opposed
to
to
reel them back in
Yeah.
to the, guys, this that has been happening. And if it's 2 years, 3 years down the road, this that's happened in 3 years, it is not normal.
Right.
It is not normal.
It's temporary.
Yeah, which means that when things go back to normal at some point, because they will. I mean, think about it. The pandemic that happened in 100 years ago.
The 1918.
They would have been the same. They would have been wearing, what was it, like those bird-looking things?
Yeah, they're wearing some other types of
some weird stuff. Yeah, that would have been the case for the last 100 years.
Right. It was temporary.
Yeah,
it was temporary. But I mean, I think the point to make here is there's an impact on the kids, and you got to be conscious on that, the impact on them.
The fear as well, too. It's just the fear is, you don't want the fear to take over where when the mandate is gone, that they're like, I don't feel comfortable. I can't operate without the mask anymore.
Right. Because now we're operating out of fear as opposed to data, information, things like that.
Right.
Crazy. Okay, so next tip.
Let me see here. The next one would be, so here's a little tip. If you have your child next to you and you're having a meeting, and I've considered this, I actually thought of this the other day, maybe getting a little piece of, like, maybe going on Google or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure Google might have something like in a meeting. I'm 100% sure that they have that, but like a picture. So like Lucas, who's just learning how to read, I can't put in a meeting on a paper.
Right.
Until, I mean, I could, and then train him to understand that what it says there in a meeting and maybe a picture. Then what I can do is have it on my desk. And when I'm in a meeting and he's trying to talk to me,
you put like a stop sign or something.
Exactly. I raise it up.
That's perfect.
And he knows, it's a visual cue. I need to be quiet.
Right.
As opposed to me having to say, hold on a second, let me mute, let me close the camera.
That's perfect.
And, let me go and attend to him.
Because that disrupts the flow of your work, of your presentation.
And it's training. You have to train them. You have to train them that, look, you don't go beyond my area when I have a meeting. That's it.
And let me add to that. How long did it get you to where you're at now? How many weeks or how many days did it get you where he understands when you're in your meeting, all right, let me back off a little bit. How long
since school started. So let's just
5 weeks.
say, yeah.
So, the people listening, you got to understand this training ain't going to happen overnight.
Right.
Don't get frustrated when he didn't get it on the second time. Be realistic. It's going to take days,
right? But
weeks
like
to
we
get
were
it.
talking about yesterday, there needs to be accountability too, especially with your older kids. And hopefully you're not having this problem with a 14, 15-year-old or something. They're pretty much independent at that point.
It's possible, but yeah, they need to have it.
Right, but like, when we have our, what's the word? I don't want to say disobedient, but sometimes defiant.
Yeah, we have.
Either one of them.
They both have.
There needs to be accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, if you come and you interrupt me or embarrass me in any of my meetings, we have a point system.
Mm-hmm.
We take away points, and then they don't get rewards at the end of the week, or they don't get to do fun things on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be some form of accountability. Take a toy away, take something, anything, but they need to be held accountable for it.
Right.
Because in that practice is how they learn to cooperate.
Right.
So.
Right. I get it, man. I get it. So here I got one. You mentioned technology. I think the basics technology you need to have a working laptop, right? A working phone. You need internet, right? You need to make sure that if you're going to be working from home or any of that, you need to have like the basics, man. You need to have the basics. Even like folks now, look, in some places the employment is coming back up, right? In some areas that didn't even get affected like it did in New York and Florida. So in some places the employment's picking up. So if you already know that you're going to get back into the workforce, like some of these things that Michelle's talking about, these apps, these things, technology, you need to kind of already be ahead of that, because employers are going to expect that.
Yes.
And if you don't even know, like, how to handle a Zoom call, I think that's like basic now. I think it's becoming where it's basic. Zoom.
Yep.
If you don't know how to be on time at a Zoom meeting because you really don't know how to work it, you're going to look bad, man. The employer's going to look, that's a check mark. You're not even trying to learn.
Right.
And be in the best position to get the job. So get some of these things, Zoom and all those apps, the basic ones, learn it, have internet. I mean, that's foundational, good internet.
Oh, here's another thing. Technical difficulties.
That's what I was going with.
You can't have the same technical difficulty every time.
How bad does that look?
It looks bad. I don't.
That's where I was going with this.
But I've had issues where that's been the case.
That's exactly where I was trying to lead up to, and you forced me to say it because I was trying to get there and I wasn't really thinking of. Listen, if you're working from home, and I want to know an example. It sounds like you already had examples.
I've actually had it.
So
I haven't had to the point where I've had to call the attention for that.
So let me bring the example. What type of technical difficulties?
Well,
internet?
For one of. No, not the internet.
Connection?
No, because those are far in between.
Okay.
That they're not. They seem normal.
Now, when I say internet, it's where you lost connection, like.
Right. So, like for instance, for me, if I lose connection here at home, I learned not too long ago. That was one. That was one.
Let me hear what happened. What happened?
I forgot that I had my work phone has a hotspot.
So you were connected with a home internet.
And it wasn't working.
Were you in a meeting?
No, I wasn't. But
were you doing
But I was trying to work.
Okay.
And I couldn't. And at that point, I was kind of telling my boss that, listen, I'm just gonna like
not work today because I don't have the internet.
today because I don't have internet.
And then you realized.
Well, she's the one who put it on. She goes, well, you have your hotspot. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right.
So
I went looking for it.
So if you would have known that, you wouldn't.
No, it's that I knew. I totally forgot.
You forgot it. If you hadn't have forgot it, you wouldn't have looked a little silly.
Right.
In front of your boss.
Yes, exactly. But so that was one, and then the other instance was with one of my my staff. And it's not like they were using Microsoft Teams before. This is the first time they were using it. So a couple of times they were getting on, or this person was getting on, and they were having technical difficulties. They couldn't figure out
the password. The link wasn't something.
No.
The app.
The way they were accessing it through another method, and the audio doesn't work, and they couldn't hear. And another one, we couldn't see the camera, and they were trying to do it over their phone, and they're like, it's not working, and da 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 da. But after like maybe 2 incidents. Yeah. They got they got the hang of it, because now they knew that every single morning that they're at work, they have to report through Microsoft Teams.
So let me ask you. So what you're telling me is that it's okay if you never learned it. Okay, there's a learning curve. But after a while, you can't have the same problems.
You can't have the same
You can't say, "Oh, it's not the app is not working."
Right.
Dude, you got to figure it out.
That's why we have an IT department.
You have to figure it out. What about the folks working from home and they don't have an IT department? What do? They need to have they need to make sure it works on your phone, on your laptop, on a desktop.
You need to have a backup.
The browser, the application download.
Yeah.
You can't have the same mistakes. Now, have you had any team members have the same mistakes?
No.
And you're like, come on, man, this ain't.
My team now is on point. They're on the meetings, because what Outlook will do is it'll pop up a window saying somebody's already in the waiting room type of thing.
Okay.
And then that lets you know that you can go in, or like if I'm the host, I'll go in and then I'll start seeing them come in through the app. Here's another tip: don't be late.
Don't be late.
Yes, and I'm
Is it
guilty
obvious?
of it. I'm guilty of it because since we have so many clocks in the house.
Okay.
We need to get all the clocks to sync, or I need to know which ones are ahead, which ones are behind.
Yeah.
Because say I'm in the kitchen making lunch for Lucas or making lunch for myself. If I have a meeting, I have to constantly be like watching my phone or whatever.
Right.
And I want to say that our clocks in the house are behind.
They're not on point, that's for sure. Like everyone is not the same.
All of them.
We do.
Because it's confusing, because then when I look at the clock over there, I'm like, wait a minute, this clock here is behind,
Yes.
which means
I'm
that the
late,
clock I've been late to meetings.
Is that a effect from working from home?
It is, because
you're comfortable and you're not.
Right.
If you're at work, you're in that.
The clock is the same everywhere because facilities make sure that all the clocks in the lunchroom, all the clocks are synced to the computer, which are synced to the drive,
right,
and wherever it is that we have hosting our data.
Uh-huh.
So everything the time is uniform.
But not only the time, but if you're at work, imagine you have people walking by saying, "Hey, are you going?" Like
yes.
You have other types of reminders.
Right.
Here
I
don't.
No, I do. I get them on my phone.
Oh,
my boss saying, "Are you coming to the meeting?"
Okay, see. Yes. Now, if you didn't have the one person looking out for you, you'd be late.
Right.
So people need to figure out reminders.
No. This is after I'm being late. I've been late. Yeah, this is after being late.
So we need to have other reminders. Like, what can people do to remind them? Like, what else?
You got to go through every single one of your clocks in your house and make sure that they're all, maybe if anything, ahead. Of time. Like I said, I'm in the kitchen and I'm feeding him, Lucas or Liam or whatever, and I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, oh, I still have 2 minutes. Wait a minute, no, I don't. I go back and everybody's already in the meeting.
Right. The method I use for reminders for consultations and meetings and things like that, I if it's set up on my calendar, like my meetings are all set up on the calendar, and I have it where Google sends me a calendar. And I have my watch saying, you got a meeting in 10 minutes. Boom. If I didn't have it, then I would be like you in those instances.
That's great. The problem is that I have a work email Outlook account.
Yeah.
And then I have a personal one.
Right.
And my watch, which I don't have it on me, my Fitbit, is personal.
Right.
So I don't have my my work one coming in. So at the end of the day, I have to literally be carrying around my work phone, which I'm not always going to do that. Half the time I let the battery die.
That's an interesting thing, man, because it sounds like there's a void there.
No, just we gotta make the time ahead.
You and I talk about apps and how can we make life easier when it comes to this function or this or that. There looks like there's something missing there when it's working from home.
Yes, but the problem is that I'm sure that can be done, what you're thinking, the syncing of the two calendars.
Okay.
Work and that. The issue is I would have to talk to IT because of HIPAA.
No, but I think in your area, in your field,
I can't.
They may not allow it.
That's what I'm saying because of HIPAA.
So right. So
I don't even want to get onto that part because of it's
sensitive, super sensitive. You're sort of like in a restricted space,
right,
where you can't share work emails and work network on your personal.
Right.
So that's interesting. Yeah,
so
I'm sure a lot of people like that too.
So again, We just have to make
the archaic way.
The archaic way.
Set up the clocks and everything to ring at the same time.
Yes.
So look, folks, we're not too far advanced in technology. We're still using like the clock on if we're in the kitchen, we're using the clock on the stove saying,
well, you can always have
meeting.
Alexa tell you like, hey, remind me when
there we go.
I
That's
have a
what I
meeting
was
at
trying
this
to.
time.
Yes. But now you're getting into.
Right, but these days I kind of don't want to do
Yeah,
Alexa.
so just to quickly say, Michelle's like, you know what? Alexa's listening to a lot of things. Maybe she doesn't need to hear about my work and HIPAA and those things. So that's another topic, man. That's truly another topic. One last thing that I wanted to talk about that it's important for folks to listen is that how many computers did we go through for the kids?
Oh my God.
How many laptops? So they have to log in, sort of like Michelle has to log into her network. The kids have to log into theirs. And I imagine because there's like 1 million kids logging in, and based on the capacity of the computer, some laptops, even the ones that they gave us from school, don't even work.
Yeah.
Dude, the load time for Zoom is it's crazy. We went through like 5, 6, 7 laptops.
But I have to say it's got to be something with those computers. So if we could see what computer is this, it's a Lenovo.
Lenovo, yeah.
But I have a Lenovo for work.
Yes.
I think mine is a Lenovo.
They had 2 from school.
Yeah, the same Lenovos that they have at the school is the same Lenovo that I have. Mine is slightly bigger. It's slightly longer, like a bigger screen.
Still slow.
All 3 of them, because the 2 for the kids and that one are slow. They're terrible, and
so we had to use it.
Luckily, my dad.
Your dad's
one.
We had to use. Is that a Chromebook?
It's a Chromebook.
So
and it's working out perfectly fine.
I had to bring out the old Dell, your old Dell from like that one. It's is like a clunker. 12, 14 years. Liam probably he just finally killed it. He dropped it. And now it doesn't even work. But it was working. We had to bring it out of the archives to use it because none of the new laptops were working. Yeah. What happened when we went to Best Buy the other day?
They're out.
Sold out.
Yeah.
We went to go buy them. We went to go try to go buy a laptop for the kids because we can't have these issues with loading Zoom and all this because all their classes are on Zoom. Everything is completely sold out. Luckily, what do we do? So your dad gave us his old laptop. Thank God he did that. And Liam, what do we do with Liam?
No, we gave him the one that actually the one that Liam is using is the one that we bought for them.
Okay, when did we buy that one? Did we buy
back in maybe
after the pandemic, or is it something we had before?
No, this is before.
Oh, okay, we had this before. Okay, yeah. So luckily we had that. If not, we'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
Because for a little bit, I was letting him use my Mac, but I need to work, man.
Well, even
he can't use yours because that's a work computer. So,
Even before last year, when I say last year, I mean last school year when the pandemic started.
Okay.
Right. Remember Liam was using a desktop computer that we had bought maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
We even have that one. Yeah, but that one's not so good either.
Yeah.
We bought a desktop that was all-in-one. It's in the monitor, right?
Yeah.
And it's slow.
Yep.
It's slow. So what the pandemic showed us is that we need to have stuff that works. You need to have it because if you need it, good luck trying to buy it.
Yeah, but you know how many computers have I gone through in the last 15 years?
You're the queen of going through like expensive computers.
But right, but they like let's say, do you remember? Was it the Surface?
The Surface
that
it flips, the screen flips,
and
it's touch
you
screen.
can write.
What happened to that one?
Okay, I think it was the hardware, the motherboard.
Oh yeah.
To replace it, was like $400, $500. Which
screen.
Looking back, maybe we should have just done that instead of buying a brand new computer because that computer was good.
It was good. The issue
we still
was
have it.
And we need to maybe consider it. The issue there is the screen. It would glow and it wouldn't go to like the startup or nothing. It would just be blank or whatever. And 2 times I think we sent it out 1 time for sure, and they fixed it.
Something I can't.
Yeah, no, I took it to Best Buy. They fixed it, and then it happened again, and then they said it's out of warranty, and you're gonna have to pay like $400. And we're like, dude, no way. So we just we bought one for cheaper.
Yeah, $400, and it was a crappy computer.
It was a crappy one, man.
So the truth is we should probably look at
fixing that one.
Yeah.
And that one's a nice one.
But anyhow, going back to the computers, there's that saying, what comes out cheap. Or what
say it in Spanish. How is it in Spanish?
Lo que sale barato, sale caro. What comes out cheap comes out expensive.
Meaning if you buy something cheap, in the end you buy 2 or 3 or 4 of those things, it came out expensive.
Yeah.
So, which is happening to us with these laptops.
But,
So we spoke a lot of good stuff.
Probably all over the place.
All over the place, but I think if you listen to the podcast very well, there's some good tips in there. You kind of got to go through it to kind of pick out what works for you, what can work for you, what you need to get out of it. Any other things?
Nope, I don't have anything else. I think one last thing. Unplug after work.
What do you mean?
Meaning it's so easy for you to just and I'm guilty of it. It's so easy to just walk into your office if you have one, or if it's in your bedroom, your desk is in your bedroom or whatever. It's so easy to just go and sit in front of the computer, especially if your work computer is there, and start doing work.
Okay. I'm a little guilty of that.
So I think you have to.
You're guilty of that.
Absolutely.
You take some work to the bedroom.
Here's why though. Because I feel like
you're a workaholic, man. Let's be honest.
Well,
it's not that.
A little bit.
But
in part is because, and I may be putting this out there, so if anybody from work listens to it, sometimes I do personal stuff during work hours.
Yeah.
But I do it because what other time am I going to be able to do them? It's during the 9 to 5 time that you can make phone calls or whatever.
Banks and things like that are open during that time.
Yeah. Or I have meetings back to back. And then where am I going to get my work done?
Right.
So, especially if I have, let's say, my team calling me, and I can't get work done because they need me at that point in time, then at least, let's say it's the night, nobody is there really, like no team member is there to ask me questions. The kids are sleeping.
Yeah.
And then I can really focus on the higher focused
things that
I need to get done.
You need total quiet.
Right.
And you can get a lot done. I'm the same way. I mean, and sometimes, look, I sometimes I function better at night. Like I work mentally. I'm more focused. I can
because the kids aren't asking for they're sleeping.
They're sleeping.
Or they're at least winding down or something.
Right.
So.
No, but some folks work better at night, like mentally.
Yeah.
Like, do you have staff that say, look, I prefer to work at night, give me a night shift? Because I think better at night. Not because my kids. It's because I think better at night.
Yeah.
Some people think better.
Well, no.
They wake up like
majority
groggy.
Is because they have kids.
They have kids. But some people wake up groggy and their brain's like mush. They really can't think. But at nighttime, they're crisp.
Well, like I said, it depends because you either a morning person or you're a night person.
Exactly.
So if you're a morning person, you're going to wake up early and then you're not going to work in the evening because you're going to be exhausted.
You're going to be done.
Or you wake up late. You start work late and you work late.
Right.
So it depends on what your preference is. So.
Okay. Look, I think we said a lot of good stuff, and to be honest, I'll be honest with you, this episode, and I'm gonna say it, recording and everything, this episode flowed good because I think it's more conversational, and I think the listeners like to hear a conversation as opposed to us talking to them, us talking to each other. I was able to get a lot of good information from you. And not only good information, but practical and experience information. Like you're telling me about your work experience where people may relate to it. So I actually like this episode. Folks, if you like this episode, you got something out of it. I got something out of it because we're going to continue this format. I like it. Michelle printed out some stuff for us to talk about. We usually we write notes and then we speak, but this one, she printed it out. We have substance points, things. It's a little more focused, and I think it came out good. So if you like it, please, give us the thumbs up. We appreciate it. We're a small podcast. Come on, we're trying to.
And let us know in the comments what did you or did not like.
What didn't you like, and
or if you have any tips.
If you have things that you guys didn't mention this, and this works well for me, let us know.
Yeah.
Share the information. And if you want us to go in a different direction, talk about this, let us know in the comments as well. I think the next episode, I do want to talk about employment law a little bit. Maybe, folks want to hear about it because I think it's important. I think.
Right. I mean, I think the focus that we're taking on with T Project / Money Talks is where we're focused on finance business, and then law. And in some shape or form, we'll eventually think about bringing in politics into here. So
it's important. Politics, too, because it deals with money at the end.
It deals
taxes.
with money. It deals with legalities, our rights, our, just everything, our current events that are happening.
Yeah.
Part of it that we have, the reason why we haven't spoken on it is because that's not the platform that we built. We're trying to build on finance and legal.
Yeah.
But, whether you agree or don't agree with our way of thinking, we figure why not share.
And I think it's important to talk about it, right?
If it's not the same way that you think, at least it's a different perspective for you.
Exactly. And look, and what we're really sharing is our experience, guys. And I'm a true believer. I know you're a true believer of this. You're limited by your perspective. You are limited by your own vision. It's only when you hear a different perspective, or you read it, or someone tells you it, then you're like, oh my God, you just opened me up to another way of thinking about a particular subject. And that's where you grow.
Right.
That's where you grow. So we're gonna grow ourselves. We're gonna grow ourselves, get out of our little comfort zone. There's a lot of things me and Michelle talk about, but we keep it between ourselves. We don't even talk about family, because family doesn't like to hear about religion, politics, things that there's really no common ground. We're just like agree to disagree.
Right.
But I think we need to talk about things.
Yeah.
And we're not going to talk about them in a way to persuade you in a direction.
Absolutely not.
You do what you got to do, and you take what you want to take from this podcast. Another thing we're going to start doing is that we're going to start interviewing people. We have a list of people that we're going to start, getting on the podcast, interview them. They're experts in their particular field, so that we can get that value and bring it to you. Hey, we're going to talk to this tax professional. How does the CARES Act? How does the new stimulus bill coming out? How does politics? We're talking about increasing taxes. Does it affect us? Are we under the threshold? Things like that. We're going to bring in these professionals. They're going to talk about it, give us some information. We're going to share that with you. And so we're going to look forward to doing that in the near future. Anything that we need to...
I think we've said enough.
We said more than enough. And then also, one last thing. We're going to start in the future. We're talking about it now, is going live, or at least having the camera.
Yeah.
So right now we have it where the picture, our logo, the Tea Project logo, where it's Michelle, her teacup and my coffee mug, and you got the microphone. But we're thinking a lot of people like to see people's faces. I think it's to them, it's to us too. When we watch Pap and David and all these other,
it's like you're in the same room with them.
It's like you're in the same room, and it's like almost engaging, and you're really not talking to them, but it's like you're there. So we think we're missing that element. So we're thinking about how to create the office where it's still an office, where it's still, you and Lucas's office, but incorporate a table, and where we can get the camera and then the microphones and incorporate the visual aspect of this podcast, which I think is missing a little bit. We need to have that element, maybe not every episode, but incorporate every once in a while a visual. So look out for that, folks. We're gonna be doing that. I can't wait for that. And that's it, folks. Anything.
All right. Thank you very much for listening.
All right, folks. God bless, and we will
till next time.
Check next time.